Here is the best time of the year.
And the crowd just buzzing with excitement.
On 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Welcome back from Easter weekend. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Monday night. The Power Hour known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We got a few different things to get to this hour. Of course, you have another opportunity to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest coming up in about 55 minutes from now. Our qualifier last hour was Phil from Brigantine. You can join in as well. We will, when you hear the sounder, you have your shot to qualify. Also, this hour, we are going to get into the Phillies weekend. I got some thoughts on the Phillies weekend. Plus, Sixers versus Nets. Obviously, it's the best case scenario. But what does that mean for the rest of the playoff picture? Also, talk some NFL, because the Odell Beckham Jr. news is fascinating to me because what it might mean as a domino effect for the rest of the NFL. So we're going to have Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press joining us coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. Get his perspective. I hope everyone had a safe weekend. I know a lot of people do a lot of traveling for Good Friday, Easter, Resurrection Sunday, all the things that go on with a traveling family weekend. So I hope everyone out there had a good weekend. You got to enjoy yourselves and you were safe as you were doing it. And of course, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. Your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. All right, let's bang out some of these topics here. I'm going to first hit on the Sixers because we've been doing a lot of Sixers talk throughout the day here on the Sports Bash. And, throughout the day, there's two big things I personally have taken away from all of this. The first thing that I personally take away from this is everyone understands that the first round is not the round of people significance. It's the second round. It's the impending matchup with Boston. And I think that it's the matchup with Boston that intrigues me a lot, because while I know Boston is going to be favored, I don't think that the Sixers are grossly underdogs. It's not like it's a presumption that the Sixers can't win that series. And for me, it goes back to mentality. Jaden McDaniels, he was doing a post-game interview. If you listen to the games here on 97.3 ESPN FM, when Tom McGinnis does the games here on the radio, in the post-game, he always talks to a player from the Sixers usually. Every once in a while, I'll talk to a player from the other team if they won. But typically, he will talk to a Sixers player after the game. And after their win over Boston, I remember I had the radio on and he talked to McDaniels. And McDaniels made a very interesting point. McDaniels told McGinnis that they have to have better focus. And they got to be better at doing the small things at the end of games. And while McDaniels never pointed a single finger to any particular player or person, even though that, we in the media or you as the fans listening to sound my voice on 97.3 ESPN FM, we all pinpointed, well, Maxey did this and Harden did this and Embiid did this, and this situation could have been handled differently. And we could break down and nitpick every point of that game. I think McDaniels brought up a greater overarching point, which is sometimes in sports, it's less about a specific player and moment, but about the whole team maybe not being present in the moment. And I think that is the real issue for the Sixers heading into the postseason. Look, people can point to Doc Rivers all they want. People can point to James Harden all they want. They can complain about PJ Tucker's contract all they want. But none of that stuff really matters if everyone does their job. Now, that might sound simplistic to you, but hear me out for a second. Whatever your job is, okay? You got a job at a restaurant, all right? Let's say. And you are the person who is taking the order. You bring the order, you input it into the point of service system at your restaurant. The kitchen gets your order. The kitchen has to read the order. They have to produce the order as the customer ordered it. And then after they hand you, the waiter or waitress, the dish, you have to assess based on what you wrote down if what I am delivering to the customer is what they ordered. And if at any point during this chain of events, the person writing it down, then inputting it into the system, then the kitchen reading it, and then the kitchen producing the order, then the kitchen handing it back off to the waiter or waitress. If someone along that chain of events doesn't do their job, guess what? You are not getting a burger without cheese. You're getting a burger with cheese. And that's a problem for you because you purposely said no cheese. It's the same thing in sports. And we have to stop acting like it's so different. Okay? We have to stop acting like it's not like this. 5 men on an NBA basketball court. If people don't do their job, they're going to lose. And to me, for the 76ers, we can talk about Embiid being MVP, PJ Tucker's contract, Harden 33 years old, Tyrese Maxey having issues against Boston, Tobias Harris basically unable to make a layup and dribble at times, or most of the time, I should say. None of that matters. Because if every player does their job on the court from a play-to-play basis, more often than not, you are going to win. And the 76ers have proven this year that when they don't make mistakes, when they fight to stay in the game, they are typically winning those games. And the Boston game on Tuesday night is an example of both ends of that spectrum. Because on one hand, you saw a team that, despite the fact they had an ugly game as a whole, they fought, they stayed in the game, and they didn't give up, and they had a chance to win in the end. On the flip side, they made so many mistakes in the last couple minutes of the game that you could argue that, well, frankly, maybe they shouldn't have won the game, but they did. And sometimes winning ugly is more important than losing pretty. And for me with the Sixers, I think that they can make a deep run, but it is totally contingent and hangs on everyone doing their job and not dropping the ball. Josh Hennig here on Game Night 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We'll get to more Sixers talk a little bit later this hour. I see texts coming in like from Jeff in Ocean City over at 609-403-0973. I want to hit on the Phillies real quick. I think the Philly fans should be encouraged that they won the first 2 games of that series because they did it in ways that they won games last year. And even though this starting lineup is, well, absolutely insane, even though this starting lineup is probably the most bizarre lineup I can remember in the the Rob Thompson era. Maybe it's the most ridiculous lineup since Gabe Kapler I can think of, is what I was trying to say. I think that this is an example tonight of what the Phillies season is going to be. It's going to be a season of trial and error. It's going to be a season of, we're just trying to get through the first 2 months of the season until we get some of our guys back. Putting Stott in the leadoff position is, well, bold. Because Trey Turner's been your starting leadoff hitter throughout the season. And then on April 10th, which coincides to be the 10th game of this season, what do? You put Bryson Stott in the leadoff hole. You put Trey Turner 2. You got Kyle Schwarber 3. You put Castellanos at DH at 4. Alec Bohm was back at third base in 5. And then not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 straight lefties in a row. Marsh, Cave, Clemens, Stubbs is your rest of your lineup. And there's a lot of things juggling in my head because, number one, I looked it up. It's not like JT Realmuto has bad numbers against Sandy Alcantara. Stubbs actually hits left-handed pitching better than right-handed pitching. And it feels like in a lineup where Castellanos and Bohm are back-to-back, I mean, you could have maybe reshuffled it a little bit differently to make it a little more left-right. Sandy Alcantara is one of the best pitchers in baseball. I don't really think that Marsh, Cave, Clemens, and Stubbs is, keeping him up at night at all. It's a very strange lineup. Now, look, if they go out there and they score 5 runs off Alcantara, I'll come on the radio tomorrow and admit, hey, I was wrong. The Phillies, this was a genius move. But as of right now, at 6:13 on Monday night, I'm looking at this lineup scratching my head trying to figure out what exactly the plan is here. Again, I understand that you want to give JT Realmuto some days off. You want to give Realmuto some opportunities to not overtax him at the beginning of the season. But I would like to have my all-star catcher against one of the best pitchers in baseball. Look, you're playing a 640, a 640, and a 405 this week. Why didn't you sit Realmuto for the 405 on Wednesday? You're telling me that Realmuto theoretically going to play 2 more days and went up against Eduardo Cabrera, who has almost a 6 ERA on the year right now? Again, these are decisions that people like myself look at and we just scratch our head. And again, I'm not a baseball manager. I never played in the major leagues. I don't know exactly how some of these conversations go. As I was saying to Mike Gill last hour on the Sports Bash, we are not in the room where it happened. Anyone who's ever watched the play Hamilton, they had the one skit where they show the situation where Hamilton and Jefferson and Madison sat down to work out their differences for the best of the country, right? And Aaron Burr was mad that he wasn't in the room where it happens, right? Well, none of us are in the room where it happens when the Sixers decide we're playing Montrezl Harrell instead of Paul Reed tonight. We're not in the room where it happens where the Phillies decide, you know what, we're going to bat 4 left-handers in a row, and none of them are really that good against one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. We're not in those rooms, so I can't tell you exactly why they're making these decisions. I just know that I see a lot of flaws in these decisions, and I have to believe if I see it and you listening on 97.3 ESPN see it and everybody else has questions, I have to then parlay all of that questioning into one single thought of why is this happening? Speaking of why is this happening, coming up next, why did Odell Beckham Jr. sign with the Ravens? And what is going on with Jalen Hurts' contract? I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. AP lead NFL writer Rob Maaddi joins me next.
It's Sixers playoff basketball this Saturday on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Here's Joel with it, turning on Claxton, goes beyond the arc, a fadeaway 3, and he made it! It draws oohs and ahs from the crowd.
It's Sixers Nets Game 1 this Saturday. Coverage begins at 1 p.m. It's Sixers playoff basketball on your radio home of the Sixers. Brothers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air is ready to spring into summer. Join their family comfort plan today for as little as $14 a month to get priority scheduling, same-day service, and savings on your spring maintenance. Plus, sign up in April for your chance to win family summer fun. Broadlee's is giving away 3 great prizes, including all-access ride passes to Gillian's Wonderland Pier to a few lucky plan members. All you have to do is sign up this month and you will automatically be entered to win. Need a new HVAC system or water heater before summer? Now is the time to act. Schedule a free, no-obligation estimate and ask them how you can save big on energy-efficient upgrades through South Jersey Gas and Atlantic City Electric's 0% financing programs for up to $15,000, as well as utility rebates up to $1,500. Tax credits are available too on select equipment. Call Broadlee's, your local factory-authorized Bryant dealer, at 609-390-3907 or visit broadlees.net. No purchase necessary. See Broadlees for details.
Right now, get 50% off everything at Banana Republic Factory for a limited time during the spring celebration event. From elevated event dresses to versatile linen styles, save today at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
Only 1 week left to file your taxes. But don't worry, Jackson Hewitt is racking up the assists. We guarantee your biggest tax refund and guarantee the accuracy of your return for life. So make a fast break to Jackson Hewitt. Our tax pros will get you filed or get you an extension before the deadline. Beat the clock and the crowds. Come in and file today. When every dollar matters, it matters who does your taxes.
Dazzling decal on Daisy's Donuts window. Bold banner at Barry's Barbershop. Prominent poster at Penny's on Park Place.
This is your sign. Well, signs. To try Staples and see the difference. Get $15 off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more.
From Staples, and I couldn't miss it.
Ends 4/15. Visit staplesconnect.com/printbig for details.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right, you don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait, text PLACE to 200-300.
Sorry, but we actually have a wait list for our Monstera.
Shaw's greenhouse is really bringing in the green.
We can't keep snake plants in stock.
She needs a construction manager to build on her roots and grow.
We could add a whole section for ferns. Here we'd have dahlias, dahlias, and more dahlias.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. So you ordered a new air filter for your car. You try to install it, but it doesn't fit. So you take a little bit off the sides. What, still doesn't fit? Well, you could try to sit on it. Or get it right the first time with eBay Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's going to fit. Air filters, brakes, headlights, over 122 million parts. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors, let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Check in with you guys' thoughts and comments on the tech board, 609-403-0973 in your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app a little bit later this hour. But right now, I've gotten several NFL questions that I need to ask Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press about. Because people are asking me these questions, and I'm trying to give the best answers I can, but I feel like maybe I'm not even the best person to answer some of these questions. So let's go to someone who actually covers the NFL full time, that being Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, welcome in. Hope your weekend was well. How you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you, Josh? Just getting ready for the draft, and finally, Josh, I'm putting out my own mock drafts. I got one coming out this Wednesday. Well, I guess they call them 1.0, right? When you do it first, then a 2.0 and a 3.0. So there was no avoiding it any longer, no hiding from it, none of that. I put it off for as many years as I could, but now that I'm in this spot, I got to get my mock draft out there. So I've been working on that really hard the past few days.
Right. Now that you're the guy who has to do it, you're like, all right, here we go, right?
Yeah, man. I can't wait to get 4 rights. That's great.
Well, before we hit on the draft, a couple other things I want to ask you about. Obviously, the biggest news of the last 24 hours has been Odell Beckham Jr. and then the picture of him and Lamar on FaceTime together, or whatever that app is called. So, what should we read into? I mean, was it as simple as Ravens get Odell, Lamar stays in Baltimore, or do you think there's more to it than that?
I think at this point, Lamar really has no other options, and I didn't anticipate him having many opportunities or options. He's a non-exclusive franchise tag tender, so that means the Ravens can match any offer or get 2 first-round picks. But teams aren't willing to negotiate for whatever reason. Some teams just don't feel that he's worth that fully guaranteed money that he's still looking for, the Deshaun Watson money that no one else has got. So, and some teams may be a little bit concerned, I think, Josh, about his last 2 seasons were injury-filled and didn't finish the season. So they would rather try and build around a younger guy who is on a rookie contract. So Lamar Jackson, I thought all along, was his best option, was to head back to Baltimore. So now how do the Ravens kind of mend that relationship? And the best way to do that is to try and build around who you have is a superstar talent at quarterback. Get him some weapons. And if he's out there recruiting Odell Beckham Jr., I think a good way to win him over, and it's only a 1-year deal. I know it's $15 million. And it's a ton of money, but they were able to do it within their salary cap structure. I think that's a great way to kind of help fix that relationship with Lamar. Because when was it? The day I was at the owners' meetings a couple weeks ago, and Harbaugh sits down to talk to all of us reporters. He drops that nugget that he asked for a trade. Well, yeah, he asked for a trade. Ain't nobody making that deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Now they got to fix it. And I think this goes a long way towards that.
Odell Beckham is easily the best player that Lamar has ever had at receiver. But what version of Odell are the Ravens even getting, considering that he didn't even play at all last year?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because when he did play that previous season for the LA Rams, after he got to LA, he was very effective. He had a big game in the Super Bowl up until he tore his ACL, which caused him to miss all of last season. Like, he may have ended up being the Super Bowl MVP in that game. So he was very effective in playing well before the injury. Now, that injury, we've seen different guys handle it different ways. I remember Adrian Peterson was an NFL MVP coming back off of that injury like 9 months later, and that was pretty impressive. Odell's going to be, usually we talk about ACLs. We look at a guy not really hitting his stride, being back to who he was 18 months out. He'll be that. He'll be beyond that, because I believe his surgery may have been in February, maybe March or late Feb of 2022. So by the time he takes the field for week 1 with Baltimore, he's going to be 18 plus months out. I don't think he'll be hampered by it. I think they have enough talent on that team to where he's not going to be getting all of the attention. I like Mark Andrews as their tight end. I've always liked their run game, and they've always been a great run team, and Lamar is a big part of that. So I don't think OBJ has to be a all-pro, but he can give the Ravens and give Lamar another target, another weapon, be a go-to guy, be a number one guy with some other help around that team. And it's a good move. To me, it's a really good move. I like it. I don't think he'll be Odell of his rookie year or second year in the league. I think he's still got enough, Josh.
Speaking of wide receivers, what on earth is going on with DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, I feel like I heard a gazillion reports that teams were interested in this guy, and all of a sudden, just nothing.
Yeah, and I don't know that something won't eventually get done. We saw, remember last year, we saw some deals. A.J. Brown, the Eagles went out and got him on draft night. So we can see trades on draft night. We can see trades afterwards. We can see outright releasing. And this is the Arizona Cardinals are a team that, I don't care what they say, they're in rebuild mode. You got a new head coach. You got a team that was terrible last year. You don't really have a need for DeAndre Hopkins. I think there are other teams out there who at some point will be willing to, depending on what the cost is. And I think it's always dependent upon the cost. And I think when you get to a point in the draft, I would anticipate if something's going to happen, it would be draft day, day 1, day 2, or most likely day 2 ahead of time or on the clock, because you can be looking at your board and you can see that, hey, you want to fill a need at wide receiver, and the guy you wanted just went 2 picks earlier or 3 picks earlier, and now it's either do you take a shot on somebody who you feel has third-round talent in the second round or whatever it may be, or do you make a move and try and bring in a guy of his elite talent level, but also a guy he's going to be trending downward on the decline somewhat. I don't know what he's going to have. I think he's still got a lot to give, a little bit, maybe even more than Odell Beckham Jr. But for me, I think this is something that will happen. I'd be surprised if he's on the Arizona Cardinals going into week 1, going into training camp even, Josh. I think that relationship is over, and I think that there's no need for the Cardinals, a rebuilding team, to have a guy of that talent level.
Talking with AP lead NFL writer Rob Maaddi here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. You can follow him on Twitter at Rob Maaddi. Speaking of the draft, you mentioned how the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown last year. The Eagles have not one but 2 draft picks in that first round. And Rob, well, everyone's got an opinion about what the Eagles should or will do with those 2 picks. What is your inclination, as you know how Rosen loves to make moves? So we know he's going to make a move at some point. So, what is your informed gut instinct telling you at this moment in time?
Well, we know Howie is one of the most active GMs in and around the draft, and he likes to move up, he likes to move back, he likes to accumulate picks, but he's not afraid to be aggressive. If there's someone that they like, who they target at a certain spot, they have 2 picks, like you said, at 10 and 30. The one certainty for me is they will not pick at 10 and 30. They may pick at one of those spots and trade the other, or they may trade both. So in my mock draft, because it's my first go-round before I get to 2.0 and 1.0, I actually have them moving back from 10 and then trading out of the first round at number 30 and accumulating more draft picks. That, to me, like, if you look at any NFL team and who is most likely to make a move on draft night, it would be the Eagles. This is a draft that's got a lot of defensive linemen in it, especially on the interior. And I think the Eagles are going to either get an edge or an interior lineman. That's what I have them taking in the first round. I got them taking Nolan Smith at 12, that trading back and taking it. Now, there's a guy from Georgia who I've seen in some mock drafts in the top 10 and some in the 20s to 30s. He's been all over the place. He was like a combine superstar. And I know that Howie loves the Georgia bloodlines, and and you got Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, who played with him a couple years ago. So that's who I have coming out on Wednesday in my first mock draft. But I think I could say with certainty they're not picking 10 and 30. That would be, for me, the biggest surprise is if they stay put in both spots.
Yeah, because I'm so conflicted. Because on one hand, I look at this and say, if you think you're going to be a championship contender for years to come, you're not going to have the 10th pick ever again for years to come. So part of me says you got to stay there and pick somebody. But another part of me says, you know what, if you could accumulate more picks for next year, that seems to be the Howie way to go. So I'm personally conflicted. I'm interested you brought up Nolan Smith, because I know for me, I have concerns about him because of the fact that I feel like he might be a byproduct of playing on a great defense. And I look at a guy, and I'm not saying I would pick him at 10, but a guy like Lucas Van Ness, he was a guy who literally he was the best player on his defense, and people still couldn't stop him. Whereas Nolan Smith, I mean, he's probably maybe the third best guy on his defense. And I feel like, I remember 2017, Rob, you covered that team day in and day out. How much easier was it for those guys to say, I got all of these dudes on this D line? And even this year, I got all of these dudes on this D line. It does make things a little easier for you to shine, does it not?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, look at what we saw. Like you said, this past year's defense leading the NFL with 70 sacks and being able. The Eagles always like to go two rotations, too deep at each position on that defensive line. When I look at them trading back, it really depends on how far back you go. Like I had them 10 to 12 in getting Nolan Smith, which I think it is, you could probably even go 10 to 18, 10 to 20 to get him. I wouldn't want to go completely out of the teens. I think if you're at 10 and you can move back a little bit, you're probably not getting a first round pick, but you're going to get maybe a second or a third this or next year. That may be the way to go. But you certainly raise a great and valid point. And I think that's why Nolan Smith he's kind of been sliding, Josh, when you look at some of these draft boards, because for a guy to be top 10 on some, top 30 on others, you got to look around and go, well, yeah, it's the fact that he was on such a dominant team and defense, and not just this past year, but obviously the year before. And ironically, you mentioned Lucas Van Ness. The deal that I had is Houston moving up from 12 to 10 and taking him at 10. So I think he'll be on the board when the Eagles are picking at 10. They could just stay put and grab him right there out of Iowa.
Sticking with the Eagles, Rob, I've had several people ask me, and I will parlay it to you. What's taking so long to get Jalen Hurts signed?
I think that's taken into account some of the others who are out there, right? First, Lamar Jackson's deal. If he plays on the franchise, that's not even going to be considered for anyone who's getting a long-term deal. But Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, they're all going to get long-term deals this offseason. And I don't think any agent wants to go first. I think they want the other guys to go first because they want to top that deal. All right. So if Herbert gets X, well, this guy Burrow is going to want more. If Hurts gets whatever, he's going to 45 to 50 million average annual value, then Burrow is going to want 52 or 53. So I think they're all waiting it out. I'm not concerned that the Eagles are not going to get that deal done. I think they understand that they're something that you want to do going into the final year. But I also look at, Josh, you can look at it like this too. There may not be you can do a Lamar Jackson depending on how this plays out and still keep Jalen Hurts as a franchise, right? On the franchise tag. If you wanted to play hardball, and you could franchise tag him for 2 years, and that's what that's what he would have to play on. And it would take a really hard line stance. And depending on how Lamar and Baltimore figure this whole situation out, you could potentially see more teams wanting to go that route. Why lock into $200 million guaranteed or $180 million guaranteed when you can go down this other road? You'll still have them for at least 2 more years, And if the guy gets hurt, or if all of a sudden something happens to where he's playing, like, look at what happened with Carson Wentz. He went from a guy getting a contract to unemployed right now, looking for a backup opportunity somewhere in the NFL. So if the Eagles are scarred by that and they want to play hardball with Jalen Hurts, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they feel comfortable with him. I think they want to give him what he feels he's worth. But it's going to be difficult to build that roster around when you got a quarterback eating up $50 million a year.
Well, we do know that the Patrick Mahomes deal is probably the model that the Eagles will use, right? The idea that Mahomes, 1 year he gets paid 46, next year it's 42, then 49, 41, 40, that up and down scale each and every year. I'm assuming that's probably what they can do. I just have to wonder, like, I understand where the fan is coming from, Rob. The fan is saying, Howie says he wants to sign this guy. Why isn't this guy signed? Howie is the cap wizard. So why hasn't it gotten done? And I think for a lot of people, whether it's fair or not, they're looking at Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and they're saying, don't let Burrow set the market before Jalen gets his contract, because then maybe our conversation, Rob, here on the radio goes from, hey, Mahomes' deal is the one you use, to, hey, did you see how much Joe Burrow is making?
Yeah, but Joe Burrow, and although Jalen had a tremendous year, runner-up for MVP, runner-up for Offensive Player of the Year, and took his team to the Super Bowl and could have been MVP in a losing cause, I still think people understand that Joe Burrow is slightly – you take Joe Burrow over Jalen Hurts, right? And contract-wise, if he's going to get X – you can't come in. Yeah, he's Nicole Lynn, who is the agent for Jalen Hurts, is going to say, well, yeah, we're going to want more. The Eagles could argue back that, well, it's Joe Burrow and he's worth a little bit more and you're worth right here. So can he set the market? It's a good question, and it's a good conversation piece, and it's a concern. But I just feel like all these agents are going to play and want to see who sets the market so they can go a little bit higher. We had this conversation a few years back. We thought George Kittle was going to reset the market for tight ends. It didn't happen. It's different now, though, of course, with quarterbacks. They're all going to get paid. Daniel Jones got $40 million, and for me, that just is such a mind-blowing number for a guy who is a epitome of a game manager, that Jalen Hurts has to come in at $10 million higher.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I know you're working on your mock drafts here, Rob. I mean, the anticipation is that multiple quarterbacks are going to go in the first round. And, I always scratch my head on this, Rob, because NFL history is full of guys who just didn't work out, who were first round picks, right? And, it's no guarantee that you get some guy in the top 5, top 10 picks is going to work out for you. And there's a long history of that. Why haven't NFL teams, I don't know how to put this, why haven't NFL teams wised up to this yet? Why are there people still out there saying, I'm the guy going to make this guy work, even though there's NFL history that shows that if there's 4 guys, let's say there's 5 picked in the first round. Let's say it is Stroud, Young, Levis, Richardson, and Hooker. Odds are that only 2 of those 5s are going to be like really good in the NFL.
Yeah, and which player has the biggest bustability factor is a question that I was entertaining with someone else on a different show recently. And some of us feel like Will Levis might have the most bustability factor. Like, he's got a lot of talent, but then there's a lot of question marks. And some say, well, maybe it's Anthony Richardson because he's so raw. Obviously, with Hendon Hooker, the injury that he's coming off probably isn't going to be available all year. I think C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, more people are looking at those 2 guys like they're more of the sure thing, and that's why the expectation is they'll go 1-2. Still no general consensus on which order they go. But then I look at Bryce Young and I go, for as great as he was, and I know his size wasn't an issue in college, that size still kind of like, I look at that and compare him to Kyler Murray and say, if you're going to play that brand of football at that size, you're bound to get hurt. The NFL's different than playing at Alabama where you're dominating teams. So every team's has a need for a quarterback is going to think that the guy we end up with is going to be the face of the franchise for a decade, and we can work with him and we can enhance his abilities and build around him and make him the guy. But like you said, 2 of those 5 will probably pan out, if that, because there's a possibility that you may have a guy who's just average, a guy who's good for a couple of years, and it takes him some time to develop. And also now, Josh, these guys don't have much of a leash too, because if they're not within 2 years, if you look at Zach Wilson, if you haven't proven yourself to be worthy of that number 2, number 3, whatever pick, wherever you go, within 2 years, that the GM's getting fired, maybe the head coach is getting fired, and you're off looking for another job somewhere else. Teams aren't waiting around to develop them. They have to do it quickly.
Yeah, and the reason why I go with 2 out of 5 is because I think for at least me, Rob, and you cover the NFL on a daily basis, so you know that I'm not the only person who's aware of this. If I'm aware of, I know every NFL team is aware of this. In a draft where Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson were all taken, one could argue right now that only one of those guys is a sure thing moving forward, and the second guy won an MVP, and he can't get other teams to pony up the money. So it's a predicament, man.
Yeah, I mean, look at Josh Rosen, how quickly he fell. First year, and that was it. He got one opportunity. And then they went
him and Steve Wilkes. Him and Steve Wilkes were both one of Arizona.
They go right to Kyler Murray, and then Rosen's bouncing around, and he becomes a journeyman after 1 year. And that's the way of the league now. There's not a lot of patience. They got to win now. Coaches know they got to win, and they got to win fast. You come in there and you got to rebuild that. If you're hired to a losing organization, you got to rebuild quickly. The Texans did it 2 years in a row. They give them each 1 year, and now they're on their 3rd coach in 3 seasons, which is crazy in and of itself.
He's Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. You can follow him on Twitter at Rob Maaddi. Check out the AP Pro Football Podcast. Like, subscribe, download it, give it the 5-star review. And, of course, don't forget Faith of the Field every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. The Encore Sunday mornings right here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, always appreciate you jumping on. Great stuff today.
Thanks, Josh. As always, take care, man.
And my conversation with Rob Maaddi being brought to you by Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy, because Jenkins technicians have got you covered. From new heating and air installations, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, gas furnaces, leak repairs, and more. Just call Jenkins at 609-641-6440 and online at jenkinsandsons.com.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. It's Flyers Blue Jackets tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, and listen live on the free mobile app.
Nature Valley Crunchy Bars are the snack for out there. You know, the place where you hear sounds like this. And this. Oh, and this. Nature Valley. Life happens out there.
Only 1 week left to file your taxes. But don't worry, Jackson Hewitt is racking up the assists. We guarantee your biggest tax refund and guarantee the accuracy of your return for life. So make a fast break to Jackson Hewitt. Our tax pros will get you filed or get you an extension before the deadline. Beat the clock and the crowds. Come in and file today. When every dollar matters, it matters who does your taxes.
At Lowe's, we're always bringing pros more ways to save on the brands you trust. Right now, buy a select DeWalt 12-volt bare tool starting at $119 and get a DeWalt 12-volt 2-pack battery free valued at $129. Plus, you'll always save big on job lot quantities when buying select building supplies in bulk. Because Lowe's knows savings, Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location while supplies last. Lowe's reserves the right to limit quantities. Discount taken at time of purchase. Battery and charger not included with buy items. Valid through 5/3.
Natalia, solid dismount, but that little pause is a deduction.
Top tumblers hope to stick the landing with Coach Jasmine.
That aerial sequence still needs work.
She needs more certified athletic trainers to find her balance.
Focus. I'm going to need you for the all-around. Wait, who's spotting the vault?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Want a great rate? Check out our new First Wave Money Market account. The more you deposit, the more interest you earn. And even better, there are no term commitments. Visit oceanfirst.com for complete details, including how to get a 4.25% APY.
Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Certain rules and restrictions apply. Member FDIC.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine. With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Right now, get 50% off everything at Banana Republic Factory for a limited time during the spring celebration event. From elevated event dresses to versatile linen styles, save today at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
Attention car buyers. Matt Blatt Kia has 3 questions. Do you have a current vehicle loan or lease? Yes. Do you want a low financing rate? Yes. Do you want a new ride? Yes. If you've answered yes, then stop what you're doing and get to Matt Blatt Kia today. Because if you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released with 0 down and 2.9% financing for 48 months or no payments for 90 days on every 2023 Kia Forte in stock. Have a job clearing $350 per week? Matt Blatt Kia wants to approve you today. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home in a brand new Kia with peace of mind with Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com. To be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Don't forget your final chance to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest coming up in about 6 minutes from now. When the sounder fires, you'll need to be caller number 7. But right now, we'll get to your guys' thoughts and comments coming in. Of course, the text board is open as always at 609-403-0973 or your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Just like on the DMs coming in on the app, Hal in Wilmington says, "Hey, Josh, happy holidays. Now that the season has ended, the regular season, who do you think will be in the NBA Finals for 2023? Oh, man. I mean, if I had to pick somebody right now, and listen, I reserve the right to change this point of view, Hal and Wilmington, after the play-in schedule happens, because I personally think it'll be the Lakers in the 7 seed and probably the Pelicans or OKC in the 8 seed. But if push came to shove, I'm looking at the playoffs right now, and I think that Golden State beats Sacramento. And if they beat Sacramento, then if I remember correctly, I believe that they would face the winner of the 7-2 seed of the bracket. But I think that I'm just gonna say it. I think it's gonna be Warriors and Bucks. If you had to ask me right now on April 10th, because I think the Warriors are getting healthy at the right time, just like they did last year, and that's dangerous for the entire Western Conference. I think either the Nuggets or the Grizzlies either the Nuggets or Grizzlies get upset in the first round, just like I think Sacramento get upset. And I think in the Eastern Conference, there's only 3 teams that come out of the conference. To me, it's Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. And I think of those 3 teams, I think Milwaukee is the best of those 3 teams. Hal Wilmington trying to pin me down on April 10th without even the play-in tournament even finishing up. Over on the text board, Jeff in Ocean City chimes in. I feel the key of the Sixers is Harden. If he has had a good season and we need him to play well in the postseason and take care of the basketball, that's Jeff from Ocean City. Hey, man, listen, when the Sixers lose, they average 14 turnovers a game. When they win, they just average just under 10 turnovers a game. That 4 turnover swing makes a huge difference for this team. Steven Ventnor chimes in over on the text board. Says, Josh, why not load up on lefties against a right-handed pitcher that dominates right-handed hitters? I would have kept Turner the leadoff, followed by Stott, Bohm, and Schwarber cleanup, and then Castellanos. And then when Harper comes back, I think he should bat 2 behind Turner, followed by Bohm and Schwarber cleanup, and then JT 5th. That's from Steven Ventnor. Steve, a couple things. One, I still would put the best hitter out there in JT. You know, JT doesn't have a bad average. I think he's batting with 273. They said on Baseball Reference. So, you know, to me, I don't think that, you know, having 6 RBI and batting around 273, 275 in 33 plate appearances is not bad. So I would at least put JT in there. And I think I would rather have him out there instead of Garrett Stubbs, especially since Stubbs hits over 300 against left-handed pitching. So, but I understand what you're saying. You know, the idea of having a right, left lineup is very appealing. I just don't know, is Schwarber and Harper okay with if you put out that lineup? Like Schwarber batting 3rd tonight. You know, Schwarber hasn't bat anything that's not first, second in the lineup much at all in his career. You go through all of his at-bats in his career, he's had very few games where he has batted any position that's not first or second. So I think we have to consider, what do the players feel comfortable with as much as what do we want to see in these lineups. But I do like what you said, Steve and Ventnor. I do think that any combination of right, left is something that is appealing to me and would be appealing to any baseball person. But I still hold by the idea that I would love seeing JT out there tonight. George Summers Point, with another perspective, says, hey, Josh, a possible explanation why the Phillies are sitting JT tonight is that the Marlins had the Phillies number, and with Alcantara on the mound, Thompson is giving JT the rest in the first game instead of the 3rd game of the series. By the way, who do you think Dombrowski will trade for? Do you think Dombrowski will trade another bat to help with all the injuries? I like your opinion on that. Thanks for your thoughts. George from Summers Point. George, I appreciate it. I think it's an interesting point. You know, maybe you do give JT the rest in the first game instead of the 3rd game. Personally, I would still have given the rest of the 3rd game because you have to hit the road right after that game on Wednesday. You're going on a road trip right after that 4:00 game. So at least for me, I would have tried to find a way to get JT rest on that day. But that's just me. What will Dombrowski do? He'll get in the bat. I don't know who the bat is. I don't know where they're going to get it from. But as I said to Mike Gill earlier on the Sports Bash, I'm getting the feeling more and more that the Phillies are saying, look, can we just get through the month of May with a 500 record or thereabouts and then recalibrate for May onward? Because once you get Harper back, once you get Ranger Suarez back, things look a lot different for this Phillies team moving forward. All right, that sounder means it is your chance to be a qualifier for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. Yes, call 609-573-3776. Caller number 7 will have the opportunity to be a qualifier for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. Thanks to Philly Sports Trips, where you will pick an Eagles road trip. 4 people, you and 3 friends, will go to an Eagles road game, the Giants, Jets, or Washington. But you must call 609-573-3776 to qualify. And if you qualify, you must be present at Maynard's in Margate, April 27th, the Thursday of the NFL Draft. Call in line is 609-573-3776. Don't forget your next opportunity will be tomorrow morning during Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Big Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Here's what you missed on Greeny with Mike Greenberg.
If the Sixers are going to win it, they're going to earn it. They will have to take one of the toughest paths to a championship that any team has ever had, assuming seeds reasonably hold. So if you're going to win a title this year, your team is going to earn it.
Greeny, weekday mornings at 10 a.m. on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.